Well, today's a very special episode for us.
That's right. We have for the very first time a guest, and it is our friend Sarah.
Yeah, this is a retirement episode where I retired early. Tony is going to be retiring soon, and Sarah's been retired for a while. So when I considered that our first studio guest, two questions came to mind. One, who better to talk to? And second, what could possibly go wrong? So we'll start by asking Sarah just to give a little history of yourself, your career, whatever you want to say.
Well, most of my adult careers, I guess you could say, have been in the academic field. I was a history researcher at a university. I did also college teaching. I even gave GED exams for people that were trying to come back to school and get their degrees eventually, hopefully. I worked a little while at a newspaper, just a very short time, but I did that. And but mostly in the academic field as an adult. Yeah.
So, when you decided to retire, what did you think retirement would be like?
Well, I really wasn't sure, and I have to say I didn't think a lot about it because when I retired, I did so in order to take care of my mom. My sister and I were taking care of my mom as she was having some health issues, and so it was for that reason. I probably wouldn't have stayed much longer. I was teaching at a college at the time. I may not have stayed too much longer, but that's the main reason that I decided to go ahead and retire. And then after that, my mom passed after a few years, and after that, I really also didn't know what retirement was like because COVID hit. And so that, so about 3 or 4 years in there, it was, well, everybody remembers, I guess, what COVID was like. I mean, the first year was I didn't see anyone at all. And then it was very few times that I was able to finally see family and friends and all that in person. So those years were also right in that time when I retired. So I'm just kind of now knowing what retirement is. But I mean, when I thought about it, I thought about maybe traveling, getting together with friends, and which is true and has always been true since I retired. Basically having, I was going to say my own schedule, but no schedule, which is what I like. I like not having to do or having to do, but at my, most of the time at my pleasure. And that's what I had in mind of retirement. And that's basically what I'm doing now after a few years of finally getting into retirement.
So, excluding the COVID years,
Yes. Yes.
what has surprised you the most about retirement?
I think my not being worried about, of course, I told you in more graphic terms, but I'm not doing much. And I don't mind that. I don't mind that. I like getting together with friends. I like, for my own pleasure, researching things online, historical things, biographies of people, reading biographies. I'm reading books that I bought 30 years ago that I never had time to read, biographies, and that's been pleasurable for me. I mean, I've enjoyed that very much, and they're historical figures, of course, and because that's my thing, and so that has been, I guess, the main thing, that I can do mostly what I want, when I want, or not do as I please. So.
So, was there anything that you missed about working?
I do miss at times finding out things that maybe I didn't know about when I was giving, teaching my history classes, and that now I would like to, I wish I had been able to share this with my students or things like that. But that's about it, I would say. I don't miss the drudgery of paperwork. I don't miss having to corral other staff members to do things that they should do, that they know they should do, and that I had to kind of prod them into doing because I know it's a drag. I didn't like that at all. So I don't miss that one bit, not one.
Do you miss grading?
Oh, no. No, don't miss grading, although that was actually pretty easy.
You knew the answer to that.
Yes. Yeah, grading was another drudgery, but no, I don't miss any of the administrative things. No, I do not miss. I do not miss.
When you first retired, was there an adjustment period, or did you just slip right into it?
Well, I was still taking care of my mom at the time, so there was no period of adjustment to that. I mean, that was already happening even a little before I retired. So that, I can't say that. And then after we were easing up things, after COVID or whatever, toward the end of COVID, I think I just kind of was used to not doing a whole lot of stuff. And so since that's my favorite pastime is not doing stuff, it wasn't hard for me. But I mean, I've had friends that say that they do not want to retire because it'll drive them crazy not doing something. And I never had that problem. It was fine. It was fine for me not to do things. So
yeah, I think that's the difference between people. Some people feel like they have to stay busy and have a purpose. That's me. I have to stay busy or I go crazy. But other people, sometimes the purpose is just relaxing and enjoying that you don't have to do what you used to do. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think retirement is the time where you say, I can do whatever the hell I want to.
Right. And most of the time I can. I mean, there's something. When I was younger, I always thought, that'll be a great time to travel extensively, to see places I, didn't get to see when I was younger and so on. But that has kind of gone by the wayside. There are not too many places that I still wish I had seen, and may still wish to do certain things. But I'm not that big into, especially when I see all the junk that goes on at airports and all that business. Especially recently when we've had all of the mess with long line, hours and hours of standing in line. I mean, physically, I don't think I could do that. Stand in line that long. So that is not something I would relish doing at all. So.
Right. Did you ever feel a loss of identity after you quit teaching?
I don't think so. My friends who I see most often have known me for many, many years. And so my identity, as far as that goes, was not tied to my work necessarily, and our friendship was not tied in together. Right. Even if I met them at work, it's not that it was tied to work. So just the family and friends, they've known me for, of course, all my life. My family and my friends have known me for many years, so I don't think so. I personally don't think so.
So is there anything that turned out to be more challenging than you expected?
A few health issues, which were challenging to me, and it's hard to be positive at times about those things, especially when you're not sure, of course, what because you're never sure necessarily with health issues what's going to be coming. I would say probably that's the most challenging thing.
Yeah, the thing about health is it is important, especially as we get older, to take care of ourselves, but it's also important to be lucky.
Absolutely. I would agree with that. I would agree with that. Yeah. It depends on your doctors, health institutions, health facilities, all of that. It's kind of a crapshoot. I've learned that, unfortunately. Yeah. It's kind of a crapshoot. Yeah.
So what is one thing that has gotten better in retirement?
Well, just my, as I said, being able to indulge my desire to learn more things in about people, historical figures perhaps in particular, and being able to have the time to do that, and also have more time when time is allowed for my friends to get together with me and so on. So that's one of the more positive things, I would say.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you to think for a minute. Put on your old history professor hat. So, from a historical perspective, how do you think retirement has changed over time from a historical perspective?
Oh, I don't know exactly, but I think I have an idea that people didn't always retire. I think they worked until they couldn't work anymore. This is the idea I have. 100 years ago, people had to work. There was no such thing as any kind of pension for most people. I don't think there was. The Social Security didn't come in until the 1930s. And there were and still even after that, there were so many types of employment that weren't covered under Social Security. So depending who you were, what kind of job you did, most people, I don't think, did retire, and it was under very forced conditions that they did for help, perhaps for health or something like that, and then they had to hope that somebody in the family was going to help take care of them, which still happens. I mean, that has not gone by the wayside, by the way. But so that's my view, is that you just worked until you couldn't work anymore, and you didn't necessarily have a choice of when you were going to retire, and you thought you could retire early, for example, and things like that.
So for the most part, people now are happier in retirement than they used to be.
I would hope so. I would hope so. The lazy person that I am, I can be lazy. I'm fulfilling my dream of being lazy. For people that aren't lazy, like Mr. Rick, that has to keep busy, he can indulge his desire to be busy. So at least we do have the choice now, and that's by, I guess, because of the kind of work we did before, that we were allowed to do that.
So what's something that you do now that you didn't have time to do before?
Well, I think I've mentioned that already. Looking into certain historical events, historical figures that I've been interested in, that took me 30 years to get to the books I wanted to read, and things of that nature. Just that kind of thing. That's what really. It sounds funny because most people say, I hate history. But, that does attract me. So I'm able to look into things that I hadn't had time to look into before. I've even looked into certain kinds of music, like old spirituals and work songs that unfortunately the slaves would sing, and things of that nature that I really always had in the back of my mind, but didn't use it necessarily in class, and didn't have time to really research it to my, my desire to do. And so I've looked into some of those things. And now the fact that we have the internet, and we have all of these wonderful things, that you don't have to sit hours and hours in the library going through microfilm and all that. I mean, that's how I grew up and got my degrees, was sitting in the library for hours and looking through all of these things. And now it's at the touch of my fingertips. So I've enjoyed that very much.
So have you discovered anything new about yourself since you've been retired?
That I guess I'm not that worried about making an impression. I always kind of felt that in order to keep my job, or to stay in the good graces of administrators or whatever, I had to, I was under some pressure, let's put it that way. And now I don't have to worry about that, at least. And so that's gratifying that I don't have to worry about
I
that.
think that's just a good thing about getting older. As a whole,
In
is
general.
you just don't care as much about what other
Exactly.
people think.
Exactly. And I will say amen to that. Yes, that's very true. After a certain point, who cares?
Yeah.
You know, why do you care? You know, about certain, not myself, but if somebody was, well, I don't like that dress you're wearing. Well, what do you care? You know, or whatever it is, you know, something of that nature.
We've earned the right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. If I had money, I would be the eccentric old lady, you know, that wore lots of jewelry, not real necessarily, but, you know, lots of jewelry. And if smoking didn't kill you, I'd probably have the cigarette holder with the long cigarette holder with the cigarette at the end, and, you know, have soirees or salon in my home and things of that nature if I had the money to do it. You know, just because this is what I'd like to do, get all my friends together, we have a good time, having talks about different things. But
Well, I'm just trying not to become that old curmudgeonly get off my lawn guy, but
Oh.
it still may happen.
listen, I know about that. Why are they having a party? It's 1 a.m, and why are they so loud? Because that happens occasionally in my neighborhood, and I think it's too late for you to be doing that.
So this might be a little off topic, but you started talking about the cigarette with the long holder,
Yes,
etc.
yes, yes.
So is there like a time, like if you could have lived in a certain time in history, would you have chosen the time now that you're living, or would it be another time?
You know, I've thought about that actually, and I've discussed it with another friend of mine. And the way that the world, unfortunately, has always treated women and perceived women, and had women live their lives. Mm-hmm. This is better. It's not perfect by any means. And again, it's a crapshoot. Where you live, what family you were born into, things of that nature, your educational and financial level, all of those things, of course, play a part. But I mean, for example, I see one of my biggest, and I didn't even talk about this, one of my biggest hobbies, if you want to call it that, which is sitting on my butt. But anyway, watching old movies on Turner Classic Movies. Uh-huh. I love old movies, and 1930s, 1940s, and so on. And but I get mad watching how women are portrayed. And so I think even then, when women were starting to be more independent, and they showed movies about independent women and so on, it was not necessarily seen as a positive thing. And I certainly would not want to live in the pioneer days. No way. I mean, there's just no way. I just can't imagine. I cannot imagine. And so for at least the progress that we made up to now, as far, women, and some for minorities and so on, women of color in particular, I think, this is probably the best, but it's certainly not over with.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But I could not, I think it would be so difficult to live in a past time. Mm-hmm. I'm not crazy about, and especially because it's come to light, of course, again recently, the threat of nuclear war and all of those kinds of things that have come with progress. But in most areas of the world, or in a good portion of areas of the world, women have progressed. And so I'm very happy for that. And so that's why I would like to live in this time. So because of that.
I think I agree with you.
I do have one final question
for
you, Sarah.
Uh-oh.
Is so overall, has a retirement felt to you more like a beginning or an ending?
Gosh, I've never really paid much attention to that. I don't think of it as an ending, but I certainly don't think of it as a beginning. So I'm sorry, I can't give you a good answer to that question. I think it just is. Mm-hmm. I think it just is, and I'm trying to do as much for myself as I can to make myself happy as I can, and hoping that I'm successful in that. But I can't, I'm sorry, I don't have a good answer to that question.
Well, for me personally, it's been a little bit of both. It's like
I guess that would be the way to say it.
It's been an ending of stuff I don't want to do anymore. It's been a beginning for me to have the opportunity to do things that I want to do.
Agree.
It's a little bit of both.
Absolutely. Yeah, I guess that's the best way to put it, so I'll agree with you on that.
Okay, good.
So for me, this has been a great lesson because, again, as I am looking towards retirement in the near future, I like to hear, right, what other people are doing, what where their mind was when they made the decision, etc. So thank you, Sarah, for being with us and chatting with us about.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for spending this time with us.
Anytime you want me back. I can be a curmudgeon too. So if you wanna have a curmudgeon session, we can do that.
Okay. That could be fun.
Yes. So we might think about that sometime.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
It makes us feel a little less like we just hijacked Sarah's afternoon. So you guys realize we just spent half an hour talking about retirement.
Gosh, that's when you know you're getting older.
You're just figuring that out now? Boy, do I know how to pick friends.
Looks like I picked the wrong day to stop drinking.